Listen, it might be the day after Halloween, but we got some scary good stuff to talk about. It's the Extra Point, and it starts right now.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Extra Point. I'm your host, Griffin Barfield, back at the panelist desk. I'll be giving my takes today, and joining me, three awesome panelists. We have Daniel Dungan, Angelo Feliberti, and Patrick Driscoll, our former guest host. He's back to be a panelist, and I'm excited to hear what he has to say, as well as all of y'all. So why don't we just get right into it? We have tons of stuff to talk about, and we're just going to get started right in our own hometown of Death Valley. The unranked Clemson Tigers, the 4-4 Clemson Tigers, who would have thought that, are hosting the number 15 Notre Dame Fighting Irish at noon on Saturday. So let's jump right into it. Who do you guys have in this one?
Oh, man, look, I love Clemson. I love Clemson football. I mean, who doesn't? But, you know, this is a very, very complete Notre Dame team. Dabo Swinney, he obviously said this is the most complete Notre Dame team he's faced. And, you know, Clemson, this just is not their year. They just do not look good. And Death Valley's going to bring the noise. I think it's going to be a really, really tight ball game in the beginning, and Notre Dame will just start, you know, running the ball with Estime all down the middle and just wear out Clemson. Their defense will put up a good fight, but at the end of the day, Hartman and those guys, they're just dynamic, man. So I got the Irish, unfortunately.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I'd say I got the Irish too. I mean, we'll keep up in the first half just because it's at home. So, you know, Death Valley always brings the atmosphere. But Notre Dame, they're just way too complete. Last week they destroyed Pittsburgh like 59-7 or something like that. So I think they'll just keep it rolling with that, and it'll end up bad for Clemson, sadly.
Yeah, I'm sporting the Clemson gear, but our offense is mistake-prone. Our defense has a lot of holes. The kicking is terrible. The punting is questionable. It's just there's not a point in this team that I can say they can beat Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think this is the first time that I'm fading Clemson, but sadly, I'll probably have to go with the Irish too. I think they're just more complete. I think that they have probably the toughest schedule in all of college football. And they'll prove it. They're a great team, very well coached. I love Marcus Freeman as a coach, but I think it's end of the road. I'm honestly going to be surprised that Clemson's going to be, I think, 4-5 at that point then, I don't think any of us would have thought, but maybe they pull off the upset. But that's all for Saturday at noon for us to find out on. But next up, we're going to be talking about the now wide open Big 12 after the Oklahoma loss. The Big 12 championship's right back open, and we have the number 23 Kansas State Wildcats traveling to Austin, Texas to take on the number 7 Longhorns. Guys, who do you have in this one?
I'm going to take Texas in this one. They're still a good team, and they've got a lot to play for. If they beat Kansas State and Iowa State, and if Oklahoma can beat Oklahoma State, which I think will happen, they got a real shot at going back in the top 4. So I'll take Texas.
I'll take K-State in this one. K-State's run defense is amazing, so I think they'll match Texas's run offense very well, and they have no Quinn Ewers, so that's also a big thing. Their backup that he had, Malik, he had an interception and a fumble last game, so I think just that inexperience on the field, I think it'll get to him, and K-State will pull away. I think it'll be a close game regardless, because Texas is Texas, and they've been playing super well this year, but I think K-State will pull away with the upset.
Yeah, going off of that, mentioned Quinn Ewers. I just wrote this. Quinn Ewers, no problem. You know, I think if this was at Kansas State, you know, it'd really give them a chance. But the fact that they're in Austin, you know, Texas, they just have the talent. They have the resources. They got the noise. They got the crowd. They have been such an impressive football program the past couple years. It doesn't matter if they don't have viewers. I think they'll probably win this game by a touchdown or two, pretty comfortably. So.
Yeah, I'll take Texas as well. Like you said, if it was at K-State, I'd go K-State. But it's in I was about to say Arlington. It's in Austin. No Quinn Ewers, no problem. Malik Murphy, I believe, is his name. Or maybe even Arch Manning. Maybe the crowd gets him going. Maybe get him a couple snaps in. But just some wishful thinking. We'll see how that game goes. That is another noon kickoff in a huge Big 12 matchup. So we'll see how that goes. Next up, another big conference matchup. We're moving to the SEC. We have the now number 2 Georgia Bulldogs. Ohio State trumped them. They're the one. The Bulldogs are the 2. They'll be hosting the number 12 Missouri Tigers, who have had a great season so far and could very well upset them. But guys, do you think Missouri does that, or will the Dogs come out on top?
I don't think so, man. I don't think so. UGA is just too complete. I mentioned Texas being complete, but UGA, here's Texas, for example. Here's UGA. They have been at the top of the game probably ever since, Clemson won those 2 national titles back-to-back. I think Clemson entered the spotlight off of Bama, and then obviously came in Georgia. And they've just been a powerhouse. Kirby Smart knows what he's doing. A game like this won't really faze him that much. I am a fan favorite of Mizzou's kicker, Harrison Mevis. He's from my area. He had a huge field goal to win a big game for Missouri earlier this year. But even with no Brock Bowers, this Georgia team just unstoppable, and I don't see them losing this one.
Yeah, I'd say Georgia would win this one just because their defense. I think Mizzou's offense is super good, and I think Georgia's offense, even without Brock Bowers, has been performing very well. And, even some numbers here. Their third down conversion rate is 3rd in the nation. Their third down defensive conversion rate is 1st in the nation. So they're stopping everything on defense. But Mizzou leads the country in red zone conversion rate with a 97%. So every time they get in the red zone, they're basically scoring. But it's just, will they get into the red zone against this Georgia defense? That's the big question. So I think Georgia will pull this one out.
Yeah, I think Missouri will keep it close till about the third-ish quarter, and then Georgia's going to pull away.
Yeah.
They're just really good, really coached team. And this is probably the toughest stretch Georgia has this season with Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Missouri. So there is potential that they could lose one of those games, but I don't see it happening. So
I think this was the game last year where Georgia was down, I think it was, I'm not sure if you guys knew this, they were down 14-0 to Missouri, and then they came back and won. I don't know. I just remember being at a Clemson game, and then I saw on the Jumbotron, and Georgia was losing. Everyone's like, oh, okay. And we were still I think 4th or 5th in the country. We're like, oh, okay, maybe we go over there. Maybe Georgia loses, but Georgia came back and won that game. So Missouri does have their number at some points, but I think it's in Athens, which is a huge advantage. And each of them have said, Georgia's the most complete team in the country, in my opinion. They're not number 2, maybe a little bit pissed off. I think they'll take that one, but. That we don't know that. That will happen at 3:30 on Saturday afternoon. But speaking of other SEC matchups, we have probably the biggest game of the week. It is the number 14 LSU Tigers, arguably the best 2-loss team in the country, traveling to Bryant-Denny Stadium to take on the number 8 Alabama Crimson Tide. Huge SEC game, potentially, SEC title implications. Who do you guys have in this one?
I got the Tigers. I just made that decision right now because I have been so torn on this, but I think what it comes down to ultimately, I don't care how bad that LSU defense has been. They've been looking a little better as of late. I will say that.
Yep.
And their offense, I'm going to say this right now, it's the best in the country. And I think ultimately it's going to come down to a shootout, and LSU is going to win that shootout. Because why? They have Jaden Daniels, and the kid is absolutely phenomenal. I think it will be another instant classic, as it always is. Brian Kelly, love him or hate him, but he has beaten the Crimson Tide before, so he knows what he's doing. It's going to be a phenomenal game, but I got the Tigers on top.
yeah, LSU scored 50 points a game since losing to Florida State. That was week 1. And their defense, they've struggled against ranked opponents, but they shut out Army last week and shut down Auburn 2 weeks ago to 18 points. So, they're coming in confident. I think they can beat Bama.
I agree. I got LSU beating Bama. Bama, they always start off slow, and they've played it very close with the past 3 teams they've played. Even though the score for the Bama-Tennessee game looks a little like out of there, like Tennessee was keeping up with them that whole first half. They barely beat Arkansas. They barely beat Texas A&M. So
And USF.
Yeah, exactly. USF too. So I think LSU will start off on fire and Bama won't, and that'll be how they lose.
This one's mostly for sure this game's going to be on our TV because Clemson plays at noon and then this game's at 7:45. But I'm going to go Alabama. They're at home. You never bet on Nick Saban at home, and Brian Kelly always chokes in big games. I'll have to.
Beat Bama though, right?
Did he? Oh yeah, he did last year. Right?
Yeah, come on.
Then again, I think this Bama team's on a vengeance. They have been building up, and I think whatever defense is going to get the stop because I don't trust either defense in this one. Well, maybe Bama a little bit more. That's why I'm going to go with Alabama in this one. But I'm so excited for that one. I kind of wanted to go against the panel, so we'll see how that goes. Maybe we'll see if it goes in my favor or not. It is what it is. But next up, we probably have 2 of the most electric college quarterbacks in the country in Michael Penix Jr. and Caleb Williams. The Washington Huskies will be traveling to USC to take on the number 20 Trojans. Guys, in this one, who do you have in this one?
I got Washington. I think the wheels are falling off for Lincoln Riley in USC and Caleb Williams. Everyone out in Southern Cal. It's just not looking great for them. The past month or so has been brutal. I've been on Twitter and all that stuff. The fan base is disgruntled. They are not happy with comments. Coach Riley's skipping out on radio pressers and all that stuff, which we'll talk about later. But it's just not really looking good for USC, and I think they're just starting to tap out a little bit. And this Washington offense is just way too good, and this USC defense is just way too bad for the Trojans to win. So I got Washington.
I'd agree. I got Washington too. I think it'll give Oregon-Washington atmosphere just because regardless of their defenses, both of the offenses are star-studded. So I think it'll be a shootout, and then Washington will, they'll get a couple stops, and then they'll be up by 21, and then USC's going down.
Yeah, it's going to be a shootout. I agree with that. And I feel like I can trust Michael Penix Jr. this season more than I can trust Caleb Williams late because of the turnovers. So definitely Washington over USC.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Washington too, but I think this game's closer than people think. I think Washington go down in this game at the half. And I think that they've just been really just been walking a tightrope because they've been really close in a couple of games. I think they've been in the same spot since they beat Oregon, but you can't go against this offense. I think USC has basically a non-existent defense combined with Caleb Williams just tripping up. But I would not be surprised if USC won this game strictly because it's at home and Caleb Williams needs to earn his draft stock back going down in mock drafts. But we'll see what happens. But I want to move on to our most exciting moment in the show. And although the pen is 11, we're going to talk about the hashtag game. We have some 3 prompts that we're going to be talking about giving our best hashtags for. And why don't we start in good old Clemson? Now, if you are anywhere familiar with college sports, the ACC, or Clemson, you probably know about Dabo's Monday Tiger Call with Tyler from Spartanburg questioning his $10 million salary. Dabo comes back saying all these comments, too much that I can talk about right now, and basically at the end said that he should never call in again. So, with all of that being said and with all that you guys know, what is your hashtag for Dabo Sweeney's Monday phone call?
I'll go first. I went with hashtag hold the phone. Okay, Dabo. Great, yes. I agree with you. You have done a lot for this team in the past, 12 straight 10-win seasons? Really good, really good. But you just can't let a random fan get to you like that. And when your team is 4-4 and you chose to go and do this kind of event thing, for that to set you off, it comes off a little weird to me, a little embarrassing, but I do love the energy and the openness that he had. The other thing is he set a standard for Clemson and hasn't met that standard the past couple years. So sorry that I'm disappointed that we aren't getting what we're being promised, but I still trust Dabo, and we'll be back in it in the next couple years.
I'm on the other way around, honestly. I am all about being respectful for the media and everything like that, but I think this fan took it a little too far, and I think that's a reason why Dabo just keep letting him go so he can make the guy know how like silly he sounded on air. So I'm going with talk to him, because every single thing Coach Swinney said was facts. Yes, he could have done it in a different manner, but he took this Clemson football program to levels it should have never gone to when he took over. And yes, some of the stuff he said was questionable, and he probably didn't realize how much of the repercussions it would take. But I love the energy, and I think this is just going to awaken another fire in him to restart. You know, you look back at 2010, that terrible season. He's always comparing it to 2010. Well, I think this was just a fire that he's been like keeping in his chest, and he just finally let it out. And I know the players will back him up on this. The players have no problem about it. And I think it's just going to bring the energy up, and it's just going to give him more motivation for Notre Dame in the future. So talk to him, Dabo.
I totally agree with like everything you just said. I'd have to put #RespectDabo, because I mean, while we have had a couple down years recently, I think people are just putting in the back of their mind everything that Dabo has done up until this point for our program. I mean, we've won 2 national championships with him. He's recruited all these guys. He's the reason. I mean, he's one of the biggest reasons of why we are such a successful program. And I think people are just forgetting that just because we're having a couple, down seasons. And I mean, even last year was a down season for us, but we still were one of the best teams in college football. It's a down season for us because we're held to such a high standard within college football. So
Don't forget we were ACC champions last year.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So, I mean, yes, like you said, he could have gone about it in a different manner, but, I mean, showing that fire, I think a lot of fans should like that in a coach because, I mean, personally, I love it. I mean, yeah, just respect Dabo. Respect him.
Yeah, and to go off of that, I mean, I don't think the casual fan, like my boy Tyler, realizes how much time and effort and dedication he has put into this program. You know, he's put basically his whole entire soul into Clemson football and Clemson. He loves the community. He loves Clemson football, and he took them to the promised land, which, like I said, should never happen. So,
He knows the value of hard work. Yeah. They keep saying they don't put championship rings on smooth hands, and he's got 2 of them. Mm-hmm. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I said #mycoach. I completely back the decision that he made. I completely back everything because I think that he's the right. He has walked the walk. I think he's 2 national championships. Obviously, this year's a little bit of a down year. Since, I think it was 2020, it's kind of just been more downward incline. But you can't disrespect him like that. He has brought 2 national championships, which was, I think, twice as much as you already had when he was entering the program. But there's not really much you could say. There is so much stuff that you could say about this. Yeah. But the only thing I am concerned about with this phone call is how the media portrays it. Because a few years down the road, if Dabo does not kind of live up to those expectations of maybe doing a little bounce-back turning point, you can get a Dabo that looks a little bit like this. A little bit like this. And, we don't want that. But honestly, it could happen. But I completely back it, and I hope to see something around those lines at Notre Dame. But we'll see what happens, and maybe a little bit more down the stretch.
Time will tell.
Exactly. But next up, we're going more to the NBA. I think this is one of our first times we're talking about the NBA. But we talked about it last week. I'm losing my marbles, but we are going to be talking about probably one of the biggest blockbuster trades this year, and that involves Philadelphia 76ers guard James Harden. He was traded to the Los Angeles Clippers for a couple bench pieces and then a few picks. So with all that being said, what is your hashtag for the James Harden trade?
I thought it was a pretty good trade, but also buyer beware because of how he just kind of disappears sometimes in the playoffs. He's a very on or off player, as far as I know, which isn't a whole lot about NBA. So, disclaimer.
I put hashtag injury prone because, so overall, I think the trade was pretty good. I mean, the Clippers, if they have to win. They have to win or else the trade, they by far lost it. It reminds me of the SGA trade that they made a couple of years ago where they gave their entire future away for Kawhi, or not for Kawhi, for PG, and it just didn't work out for them because of injuries. So, I mean, if it goes anything like that trade, then I wouldn't say it's a successful trade, but if they do stay healthy, they could definitely win it all with the talent that they have. I mean, even Harden, even though he does choke in the playoffs sometimes, I'll say that, on the Nets, before he got hurt, they were on pace to, go straight through the East, win the finals, and that was that. But then they got hurt. Kyrie got hurt. So, I mean, it's a win-now situation for them. So injuries are the biggest problem with this trade, but hopefully everybody stays healthy and everything's fine.
I mean, I'm just going to go with the cycle continues. In my mind, I feel like we're just going to see in a couple months James Harden talking about how he wants to get traded again. Because at this point, this guy, he's not a locker room guy. He scores. He's good at basketball. But what else does he really bring to the table at this point? I'm not really a fan of where his mindset is anymore. And he's old. And it's just frustrating, especially the 76ers organization. He came in wanting to get out of Brooklyn so bad. And what does he do? Oh, man, I'm so happy in Philadelphia. This is great. This is awesome. And then you see how that turned out. And I think the same thing's going to happen. He's going to come into L.A. He's going to be like, this is great. I love Los Angeles. He's going to have some fun. And then when the wheels start falling off in L.A., he's going to want out again. And it's just going to be another nightmare for the Clippers front office. So I think Philadelphia is just super glad he's gone, and they'll move on, and the Clippers are stuck with him now. So James Harden, great guy, great player, but, I don't want him on my franchise. So cycle continues.
Yeah, I mean, James, he's just a tough guy to kind of just monitor. But I'm going to take it from the Sixers sides. I'm going to do hashtag Maxey time, referring to Tyrese Maxey, the guard for the Sixers. He's looked great. I knew that he was – oh, thank you. He was going to be I think that he's going to be one of the better guards this year. I think that he could win Most Improved Player. I think he's averaged 30 points in the first 3 or 4 games. So I think that he fits that Harden role right there. And, you add a couple bench pieces, and I know Nick Nurse loves to use his bench. I think the Sixers could be a better team from that. And you get, I think, 2 or 3 first-round picks that are way later on, and I don't think the Clippers will be good. So I thought it was a win for the Sixers, but, hey, I mean, the Clippers formed a super team, so you can't really go wrong with that. But
like every team's a super team at this point.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly, and yet the Nuggets are the best.
You're right.
but anywho, next up we're going some more trades. What we're going around the NFL. The NFL trade deadline was yesterday on Halloween. There were a couple deals. The biggest one was highlighted by the San Francisco 49ers. I believe they traded a third-round pick for the Washington Commanders defensive end Chase Young. Which is a pretty good deal. Washington lost another guy off their hands. So, what did you guys hashtag to this?
Spirit of Christmas, if you know the quote, is A+++++. I like this trade for both parties. He's a pretty good player, a little bit injury prone 2021, 2022, missing 22 games, but he's a very good, solid defensive end that the Niners can use, adding extra talent late like they did last year with Christian McCaffrey. And the Commanders, or whatever they're going to change their name to, Washington, they get some value out of it. It's a third-round pick, which is pretty good. And then Montez Sweat also being traded to the Bears.
Yep.
They get a second-round pick out of that, too. So clearly cleaning house, getting ready to rebuild again. But I like what both teams are doing.
Yeah, I'm going to go mining for gold. I mean, not gold exactly, but a Lombardi trophy. And that's what the 49ers are doing with this trade. They went all in for McCaffrey last year. They're adding another huge piece in Chase Young. He's still young. And it's just a really good move, especially after the Bears got Montez Sweat for a second. They got Young for a third-round pick. Third round and second round picks are very underlooked. They are very high value compared to us making trades on Madden and such. But real life, those picks are worth a lot. But at the same time, I think it's a win for both teams. The Commanders aren't going to go anywhere. It's just going to build more for them. And Chase Young coming to the 49ers, I feel like any guy in the NFL, they're just going to be better when they're on such a winning franchise like San Francisco. So Chase Young's going to come in. They already have a rock-solid defense. And then you add that piece. It's just going to make him better. It's going to make the unit better. And it's going to be very fun to watch him and Bosa tear it up every week.
That is a good point. Shanahan is really good at bringing out the best in players. And we see it with McCaffrey.
Brock Purdy, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, they are on the hunt for not gold, but a Lombardi trophy.
My hashtag is a Breaking Bad reference. He can't keep getting away with this because all of these great teams in the NFL, like the Eagles and the Niners, they keep getting these guys, these amazing players, even though Chase Young has been a bit injury prone. He's still a former first-round pick. And the Niners have the best defense in the league and the best front seven already by far. Everybody on that defense is arguably one of the best at their position. And Chase Young will go there, and I think he'll thrive in that atmosphere, like y'all said. Kyle Shanahan really brings the best out of his guys. And, I just don't know why these teams keep trading them to the teams that are already amazing, though. Like the Eagles got Kevin Byard, who's arguably a top 5 safety for a bag of chips, basically. Now Chase Young's getting traded to the Niners, who already have the best front seven in football. They just can't keep getting away with this. But regardless, it's a great trade. Like y'all said, Washington isn't going anywhere. They get a third rounder, not bad. I just think Chase Young will really thrive in San Francisco.
I have to agree with that. My hashtag kind of goes with it. He just has to stay healthy. And you've seen flashes of Chase Young. College Chase Young was an absolute beast. And I think he won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Am I right? Yeah, so, you're looking at a guy who has incredible talent, who has not only Pro Bowl talent, but he has All-Pro talent. But he just has to stay healthy. And I'm pretty optimistic about that, just seeing what goes on with McCaffrey. I know that he was pretty hurt, banged up in Carolina, go to San Francisco. Yeah, he's hurt every now and then, but he's still putting a lot of production on the field. If Chase Young has anything close to that, I think, like you said, how is San Fran getting away with it pretty much? But, that's what teams do. They win by just making moves throughout the whole thing.
And he's also back with Bosa, who played with him at Ohio State. So
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, and they're it'll probably be more likely that he'll stay healthy, just considering their defense is already stacked, so the rotations will help with that. He'll probably not play every single snap for them.
Yeah,
He's also got to learn a new
pressure's
scheme,
eased off
too.
a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, 100% for sure. At least I'm excited to see how he does, especially in a new team. I've always been kind of a little bit of a fan of him. Yet I'm a Giants fan, but I don't know. I always like seeing a young prospect doing stuff like that. So we'll see what happens. All the best to him. And yeah, we'll move on now to our NFL pick'em time. We have only 3 games, but perhaps they're probably 3 of the biggest games this week and perhaps in the whole NFL season. And we're going to start in our good old favorite country of Germany. 9:30 game, so bright and early. We have 2 6-2 teams, the Dolphins and the Chiefs, playing in Germany. Probably one of the biggest AFC games this season. So guys, what do you have in this one?
I got the Finns, man. The Chiefs did not look great. They lost to the Broncos. If you were an avid watcher of the Extra Point last year, the Broncos were my least favorite team as they would lose every game possible. But Miami, they got Tyreek Hill, and obviously he's going against his former team. I think he already has 1,000 yards on the year.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane. This offense is
Insane.
ridiculous. The Chiefs' defense is solid. Obviously, they got Patty Mahomes and co. on the other side of the ball, but it's just going to be a shootout. And like I mentioned in one of the college football games before, it's going to be a shootout, and the Dolphins are going to win that shootout. So I don't really need to give any more context. It's going to be a very high-scoring, fun game. Germany's going to be in for a treat, but I got Miami on top.
I'd agree with that. I got the Dolphins as well. Their defense is getting back Javon Holland this week and Xavier Howard, so I think it'll be a little bit easier for them to try to shut down Mahomes, and especially after Mahomes had a horrible game because they didn't even lose to the Broncos. They got stomped on by the Broncos. And then also the Chiefs' defense just lost Nick Bolton, so he's one of their best defensive players. I think it'll be a shootout to start, and then the Dolphins will eventually pull away with the win by 10 or so.
Was that in Arrowhead that they lost, or
They
Denver?
lost.
I'm pretty sure
Mile High?
they lost in Denver.
Okay.
I'm pretty
'Cause I
sure.
know, like, before the game, Mahomes got really sick and his family was really sick. So I think they'll play better this week. But I'm still picking the Dolphins because that entire offense is completely loaded. So much speed everywhere. Tyreek Hill will get 150 yards and then let Jalen Waddle get 150 yards. So,
If they had a 4x1 track team, 4x100 meter track relay, like it would be insane just because of the lack of speed.
Yep.
I mean, not the lack of speed. Amount of speed. No, Tyreek, you're not slow. No, their 4x100 meter relay would be so fast because those guys are they're the fastest guys in the NFL.
Yeah,
They're just built
no
around
doubt.
I think a relay of what Tyreek Hill, Raheem Mostert, Waddle, and A-Chain.
A-Chain.
As long as he's off the IR, I think they're probably the fastest
yeah.
4 unit of anybody in the NFL. But my pick. This happens every year to the Chiefs. They always have one really, really bad loss, and people think that they are completely off the cut. This is why they are winning this game. It happens every year. I expect it to happen again. It's the same thing with the Cincinnati Bengals. They always use like the first 2-3 games of the year, and then they go on a hot streak. It happens every year, and I'm just going to take it that this game is the game that the Chiefs bounce back. Could the Dolphins blow them out? Absolutely, but the Chiefs have the best player on the field. They're better coached, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, I love Mike McDaniel, but Andy Reid's one of the best coaches in football history, in my opinion. So yeah, give me the Chiefs in Germany. I think it's a weird one, but nevertheless, I think it's going to be probably one of the best games this week.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Next up, another great game. Out of the NFC East, we have the 5-2 Dallas Cowboys traveling to the tough Lincoln Financial Field to take on the 7-1 Philadelphia Eagles, who have the best record in football, I think, alone now. So, guys, who do you have in this one?
Give me Philly, man. I mean, A.J. Brown, this guy has been on an absolute tear. His stat line, it broke a record. I believe it was most consecutive games with 125-plus receiving yards.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was. He's been a monster. This offense has just been so fun to watch. And a player mentioned on this show previously that I want to give credit to is Jason Kelce. Shout out Jason Kelce. He gets those guys going on the offensive line. DeAndre Swift, fantastic addition to the team. They just have solid rotations all around the board. They added Julio Jones, who actually contributed a little bit, and I think he will continue to do so. And they just have so many weapons on the offensive side of the ball. I can't even get into defense because their defense is right there too, but I don't want to talk about that the whole time. But, man, you know, the Cowboys, I just don't think they can knock down Philly. Philly's just too good.
I mean, I picked the Eagles because I don't trust Dak as far as I can throw him, and that ain't that far. Yeah, give me the Eagles over the Cowboys. And also, it's like the Cowboys will have a really, really good game and then, like,
Suck.
disappear the next game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a Giants fan, I hate to see either of these teams win, but I'd have to go with the Eagles, no doubt. The Cowboys, I mean, they had a good game last week. Dak played well, but, like, in big games, Dak just doesn't perform. And I think the Eagles and the Niners probably have the most complete teams in the league, defense and offense-wise. I mean, they just added Kevin Byard, like I said earlier, and then their offense is star-studded. I mean, if you're not throwing to A.J. Brown, you can throw to Devontae Smith. So then you got Julio mentoring them and getting maybe like a check down here and there. Their offensive line is amazing. Nobody can stop the tush-push. So I just don't see how the Eagles lose this one, you know?
I mean, they did. The Commanders did it last year, last week.
They did.
They stopped it, but
Once.
I
honestly
feel
think-
like
For the first
going
time.
into that game, though, the Eagles needed a loss to wake themselves up, and now they're awake.
They won. Yeah, they won last week, right?
Yeah.
They beat the
Yeah.
Commanders.
Um,
I think they lost to the Jets. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yep.
one loss.
Yep.
Yeah.
7-1.
But yeah, like Angelo says, as a Giants fan, I hope these teams tie. But I'm going to have to go with the Eagles. I've been to games in Philly. It is probably the most rowdiest crowd. And the funny thing is, it's like a bunch of like middle-aged men, which is probably like my most favorite part of it. What were you going to say? What do you
Most rowdiest crowd.
Yeah,
That's
most
real.
rowdiest crowd.
Those Philly
yeah.
fans are crazy.
It's very accurate, very accurate.
Like, they're notorious.
As somebody who lived in Pennsylvania for 15 years, I have never seen Philly fans like I haven't seen anybody like Philly fans. Nowhere, anywhere, ever.
They're nuts. But yeah, like everybody said, I think Philly's the best team in the league. They're the best team on paper, and they have shown it. And they have a play that guarantees them 3 yards every time they run it. I don't love it because I'm a Giants fan, but it's really cool to see what's going on in Philly, and they just dominate every single part of the team that they, especially in like free agency and the draft and the trade deadline, they added Kevin Byard. But I'm gonna go with the Eagles on that one, sadly, but that'll be a fun one to watch for sure. Lastly, with our NFL Pick'em, we have two AFC teams who have met in the playoffs. They've met, I believe, they did meet last year. 2 3-loss teams, the 5-3 Bills traveling to Cincinnati to take on the red-hot 4-3 Cincinnati Bengals. Sunday Night Football can't get better than this. Who do you guys got?
I got the Bengals. The Bills. So Josh Allen he has been like limited in practice. I think he'll eventually play. I think he'll end up playing, but Bills are super injured. I mean, they just traded for Rasul Douglas, which is a good addition, but I mean, I don't think he's going to be like a complete game changer. And also, the Bengals just beat the Niners last week, so they're rolling right now. And like you said earlier, everybody thinks the Bengals are going to do bad because Joe Burrow starts off slow or he's hurt, and then they go on like a 7-8 game win streak, lose only like 2 more games after losing like 3 games in the first 8, 6, 7 weeks. So I think the Bengals are just on a roll right now, and I think they'll keep it up against the Bills. The Bills they're too injured.
Who day? We got the Bengals. And I say this because in the beginning of the year, you have Joe Burrow underperforming, and every single person is criticizing him, all that, not even realizing that this guy is playing on like one leg, hobbling across the field, just doing whatever it takes to even just get out there in his pads. And now this is when he starts to cook. This is when Joe Burrow becomes Joe Burr. And I'm just going to say this is when the Bengals are turning up, and they're going to keep doing it. And I think they're going to win their division. And a big reason why is going to be come Sunday Night Football when they beat the Bills.
Yeah, this game is huge. This is when they played last year. It was the DeMar Hamlin injury in Cincy, and it's in Cincy at night again. So there's a lot of emotion going into it. The Bills are really pumped, I would think, for this game to go out and win it. But I got to go with the Bengals. Joe Burrow, last week, the shellacking they put on the Niners, got to take the Bengals.
Yeah, so I just changed my answer because there's just like
Going against the panelists.
I'm going against the panelists again. I'm going to go with the Bills. There are games where the Bills look like the best team in football, and then a week later they'll look like a team that needs like a top 10 draft pick. You get one or the other, and I think the Bills are going to play the best that they can because of the DeMar Hamlin game. I think emotions will be flowing, and I don't know. I think the Bills just flip a switch, especially in an emotional game like this, and I just think that I don't know. Like, when you like think that games are like this team is going to win, like you just see it. I just see the Bills winning this game.
Okay.
Like I see it. Like
It's like the more I think about what happened last year, the more I want to go for the Bills.
And they're
I'm going to stick with the Bengals.
They're still in for revenge, though. They did lose in the ACC divisional round to the Bengals last year, so maybe a little bit more of a revenge. But yeah, I'll go against the panel here and take the Bills. But I could be completely wrong. They'll probably send it to me in the group chat, be like, look at you. Just completely blown out.
I think it'll still be a very good game. It'll be close for sure throughout the whole entire thing. Because I don't see how it's not a great game when it's the Bills and the Bengals rematching.
This is probably the best weekend we've had all year.
Yeah. In terms of these 3 games, I think they're probably the 3 best games in like a single week.
Yep.
In my honest opinion. But anywho, we're about to wrap up here, but with our last question here. College basketball's starting up next week. I think Yeah, I don't remember who plays when, but we're just going to do a quick little question here to kind of kick off college hoops. And that question is, who's going to win it all by April? Because we got a couple teams going around. But who do you guys have in this?
Let's go Clemson! Yeah. No, it'll probably be like Duke, but let's go Clemson.
All right, you guys ready for like the biggest take?
Let's hear it.
In it.
Woo pig! Arkansas! Arkansas is gonna win. And you know why? Because everybody is sleeping on them. They have been recruiting like crazy as of late. And you know what? They took on Purdue in an exhibition match in Arkansas. The atmosphere was insane.
Oh, they
and
love
they
it.
won. They beat Zach Edey and co. And they just looked great. And I had so much fun watching it. I can't think of any names off the top of my head, but they are going to be coming off. They're going to be winning this college basketball season, and no one's going to expect it. They're going to come in as like a 3 seed, and then they're going to be that team that everyone's going to be rooting for. So
America's
remember this.
team.
Woo pig, Arkansas.
I'm going to have to go with the Blue Devils just because, I mean, they brought back their best player in Kyle Filipkowski, or however you pronounce his last name. They brought back Tyrese Proctor, who is a super good freshman for them. They got Jared McCain there now. They got Caleb Foster. They got all these young guys coming in and returners. So I think they're just the most complete team in basketball, in college basketball. And I think they'll definitely make a run and win it all this year. I think it just feels like this year's their year.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. I'm a Clemson fan, but I just really like what Duke's doing, especially down the stretch last year. They didn't lose at home last year, which is something to keep in mind. But if you're returning starters like Filipowski and Proctor, and I think Proctor takes the next step, you get Jeremy Roach as well, Mark Mitchell.
Yeah, Roach.
I think the combination of just veteran leadership combined with the fact that you're bringing in some of the best recruits in the country,
Yep.
I think Duke gets it done. I really do. Sadly, I do. But if you're asking me to be objective, I'm going to roll with the Blue Devils to cut down the net and win the national championship. But it's college basketball. That's why it's my favorite sport, because you have no clue. You had FAU last year going all the way, but maybe we have Arkansas. Maybe we have
Pig.
Maybe we have Clemson. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Anywho, that's going to do it for us. Next week, potentially you'll see us maybe a little bit happier than usual, or maybe a bit more like this, especially after the Notre Dame game, but that's only a week ahead. But that's going to do it for us here. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.